So thank you, everybody who's come out tonight. It's really great to see all of you. We're grateful to live on land that's the traditional and unceded territory of the Syilx First Nations who've called the Okanagan home for thousands of years. We express gratitude to those who reside here and honor the Indigenous people who have lived and worked on this land historically and presently. I was honored to join hundreds of people for the Truth and Reconciliation Day Walk for the Children, September 30th, to the Monument of Remembering, bringing our children home at Inalkan Center. The stories that were shared by elders were really impactful, and we were all deeply moved. Salmon is one of the main foods for the Syilx people and culture, and working hard to bring salmon back is critical after colonization impacted their breeding habitats. Channelizing the Okanagan River in Penticton radically affected the sockeye salmon migration, but now with the hard work of the Okanagan Nation Alliance at the hatchery across from Inalkan Center off Green Mountain Road, millions of fry are raised and released into Shingle Creek to return and make their way into Okanagan Lake. Right now, they're too busy for tours, but after November, you can call and see if they'll show you the site. I can tell you it's fantastic inside that building, and it's a really great tour. We'll give you the contact information in the email following so that you can maybe, have a tour. And also this Sunday, you can check out the Salmon Open House. It's going to be near the Sycamoose in Penticton from 1 to 3. That's October 22nd. Lee McFadden and Ella Braden will be sharing fish history and information, and it's sponsored by the Okanagan Similkameen Conservation Alliance. This is FTFO Climate Action's 25th Deep Dive Seminar. We've been hosting these monthly since 2020. We feature speakers who bring together different perspectives on climate solutions. And by learning together, we hope to build connections and gain insight into what we can accomplish here in the Okanagan and further afield. We're trying to always move that needle. I'm tonight's Zoom technician, so let me know in chat if you have any technical issues. And the session's recording will be sent to you by email, along with the interesting links that come up in our discussion. And now I'll pass it over to Sue to introduce our amazing presenter tonight.
Think you can hear me now, I hope.
Yeah.
The impact, thanks, Lori, and hello, everybody. Nice to see you tonight. The impacts of climate change are becoming more and more evident. Most people are aware of the problem, and many people are anxious, yet it isn't translating into mass climate action. Many people see the solutions as hard work and having to make big sacrifices. So what if we could reframe climate action away from the concept of sacrifices, instead focusing on what is gained through behavioral shifts, whether that's more free time, a healthier lifestyle, or simply a moment of joy. Jay-Z teamed up with a social psychologist who studies happiness, Dr. Elizabeth Dunn, and together they developed a happy climate program. And the goal of this program is to teach people how to reduce their carbon footprint by taking actions that also make them happier. Jay-Z is the Canada Research Chair in Behavioural Sustainability and Associate Professor in the Department of Psychology and the Institute for Resources, Environment, and Sustainability at UBC. Jay-Z uses psychological principles to understand behavioral solutions to address sustainability challenges. And during Jay-Z's talk, if you could keep yourselves muted unless you have questions, and we'll have questions throughout. You can ask questions throughout the talk, and we might also have a Q&A at the end if needed. So Jay-Z, we really appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you for being here to share your expertise in motivating climate action. And please go ahead.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you, Lori, for inviting me today. Hi, everyone. I'm Jay-Z. My full name is Jiaying Zhao. First, I would like to encourage you to turn on your video so I can see your faces and memorize your name, so I have a match to the name. I'm joining you today from the unceded and ancestral territory of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, also known as Vancouver. So what I would like to do today is give you a picture of our happy climate approach, followed by a workshop that all of you participate in, including me, to develop a personal happy climate action plan that you can take away with you and execute on in the next couple of months. So as Sue mentioned, climate change is depressing enough, but the way we talk about it is not helpful either. It's so easy to see the doom and gloom news on a daily basis. The climate disasters are getting worse every year, especially in BC. So what can we do? There are many barriers to action. One barrier is, as Sue mentioned, the sacrifice mindset, that we have to give up our quality of life, our consumption for the sake of the planet. Another barrier is just depression or anxiety. We're being weighed down given the negative news that we see all the time. Another barrier is lack of knowledge, not knowing what to do. So Elizabeth Dunn, who's a faculty at UBC, and she's a happiness scientist, understanding what makes people happy, she and I teamed up a couple years ago to understand what we can do to either, to both take actions on climate change, to reduce our emissions, to adapt to climate change, as well as promoting individual happiness at the same time. So earlier this year, I gave a TED Talk, which is publicly available online. I can put the link in the chat in case you want to take a look. It's only 12 minutes. You don't need to watch it right now, but I can give you a gist of the talk in the next 5 minutes. So as I said, I'm going to quickly share my screen. I'm just going to start. Oh, wait, sorry. So what does this happy climate approach look like? So I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So it's essentially finding the sweet spot between carbon reduction activities and happiness promoting activities. So what does that even mean? So I have a rabbit as my pet, and she's a vegan. She eats exclusively plants. So what she and I have been doing is basically changing our diet. By that I mean my bunny, her name is Greenwich, is actually making me eat more plants than I used to. And then we know that food produces a lot of emissions on a yearly basis. But a plant-based diet or a plant-rich diet is carbon friendly, has a very low amount of carbon. And so I tend to share my meals with my salads and fruits with my rabbit, with Greenwich. And medical studies have also shown that a plant-based diet makes people feel happier because plants offer vitamins, phytochemicals that fight inflammation in the body and the brain. So as a result, we feel happier, we feel better after eating more plants as opposed to meat. So this is the eating a plant-rich diet is a happy climate action. It reduces emissions and also makes us feel happier. But when we do eat meat, one important fact to know is not all meat is created equal. So beef and lamb have the largest carbon footprint, whereas other types of meat, like fish, pork, or poultry, have a lot less emissions. So the lesson here is to diversify. Diversify non-carbon or less carbon intensive meats. So prioritize chicken, turkey, even pork and seafood, or sustainably farmed seafood in particular, because diversity it also makes us happy. If we have a diverse set of experiences, we tend to feel happier. And if we do eat beef or lamb, those carbon-intensive foods, the lesson from happiness is make it a treat. So instead of eating it on a weekly basis, we can turn that into a celebratory moment, like a celebratory meal on birthdays or anniversaries, those important moments that we can turn, meat into a treat. So there's actually a whole social movement on social media. It's called the hashtag Make Meat a Treat. So that's the happy climate action. Another action that I have adopted is, I don't know if you can see this. Oh, maybe not easily. Is feng shuiing our fridge. So food waste contributes to enormous amount of emissions on a global level. And what I've done is completely reorganize my fridge to reduce food waste. And this is how I did it. My fridge before looked like the picture on the top, where, the produce, the perishables are kept in the drawers, as we're told, and the containers, the bottles are kept at the doors. But that's not great, because that's actually not a human-friendly way to keep our food, because we forget things in the drawers, out of sight, out of mind. And I used to waste a lot of food that I just simply forgot that's there. So what I've done is reorganize the fridge so that the produce and perishables are placed at the door, and the non-perishables are all kept in the drawers. And since I've feng shuied my fridge, I have not wasted a single piece of food from at home. So I'm very happy to say this works very well for me, and it has worked for a lot of my friends who watched my TED Talk, and they said they saved a lot of food waste by feng shuiing their fridge. And so now I've talked a lot about food. The next action is travel. So emissions from driving, flying, also are huge, contributing to global warming and climate change. So one lesson from a happy climate action from travel is carpooling. And this is driving friends and not driving by yourself in a gasoline-powered vehicle. If you have an EV, that's better, much better. But if you have a conventional car like I do, drive more people instead of drive less. So now I have a rule to myself. If I have to drive my car, I will try to carpool. I would try to drive my friends and colleagues who I know are also traveling at the same time, like going to and from work. And carpooling is also a happy action, because we get to talk to our friends in the car. I often catch up with my friends during those commutes. Makes us feel happier than driving alone. Another commute action is biking. So I bike sometimes in the city, around the city. I bike with my rabbit sometimes. Biking is a form of physical exercise. It activates our endocannabinoid system that releases endocannabinoids in our brain. That's essentially free drugs that we produce ourselves. So after biking, studies have shown that people feel happier. This is the biker's euphoria, or the biker's high. Same with the runner's high. We feel happier, and we cut the emissions from driving. So biking is a great happy climate action, provided that it's safe to do so. And another one is taking walks in nature, which I love to do. I walk my rabbit a lot in the city of Vancouver, and people take so many photos of us. And so exposure to nature makes us feel happy, more relaxed, and more at peace. It's also happy climate action because it's one way to connect with the nature, connect with our neighbors, people in the city, and having more green space cools the city down. It can potentially serve as an air conditioning for the whole city. So having more green space and accessing those spaces is a happy climate action. So far I've talked a lot about kind of these broad individual actions, but another action that we can participate in is civic action. So call for climate policies in local governments, in provincial governments, or federal governments. And this can take the form of joining climate rallies with friends. So that's another happy climate action, because we're spending time with friends. That makes us feel happier, and calling governments to change their policy. We can also talk to politicians, elected officials in your area, to voice your support for climate policy. So these are all the major high-impact climate actions that can not only reduce emissions, but also increase our own happiness, contributing to a positive cycle of behavior change. So I'm happy to take any questions. If you have any, you can either put them in the chat or unmute yourself and speak up. And in the next, so I'm going to stop screen share. In the next half an hour or so, I would like to invite you to complete a Happy Climate workshop where you will complete your own Happy Climate action plan following this approach. Now, before I do that, I want to send all of you an action bank that we've developed in the last couple of years. So now I'm sending the file in the chat, so you can all download this document onto your computer. Oh, thanks, Lori, for sharing it as well. It's the same document. When you have it, I'll go over the document briefly, and this document can guide you in making your Happy Climate Action Plan. So when you open this document here, you will see, a lot of actions that we've listed that can increase individual happiness, like the bike to work instead of driving alone. I talked about that earlier. And it also shows you the carbon emission reduction potential. This is per person per year, and an equivalent of, cutting driving by X kilometers. So that's just a translation of the carbon savings from that action. So this is a list that we have come up so far that, includes biking, video conferencing instead of flying, carpooling, joining a community garden, if you can, to grow your own food, eating more fruits and vegetables instead of meat for 1 day a week, donating food to community fridge or food banks if you can, planting trees if you have access to a tree planting facility, repairing, rewearing, reusing our items and clothes instead of throwing them away, thrifting instead of buying new clothes, or donating our personal items away instead of throwing them into thrift stores instead of throwing them away. So here are the major high impact climate actions that also increase individual happiness. And I'm just curious to hear what your reactions are so far. I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, so thank you, Greg, for mentioning making meat a treat. That's a great way to reduce cholesterol as well as stay healthy and reduce emissions. Or switch the fridge. If you can switch your fridge. I just simply reorganized my fridge, and that has worked really well for me and many others. Angie, you have a question of how do I remain happy where friends and acquaintances are traveling around the world? Oh, that's a great question. That's a tough one, because we will feel discouraged when our friends and colleagues are flying and emitting freely while we are trying to cut back. So how is it, is it fair? What should we do about it? So I think my suggestion there is, Angie, if you're willing, talk to them, right? Talk to your friends and colleagues who are traveling and flying and driving as much as they do, and talk to them about the emissions that are associated with their travel habits. And this is not to shame them, but this is just to get them to be aware of the emissions of their trips. So one thing that I have done is, if I have to fly, I bundle my trips. So if I have to fly to the East Coast, then I make a point of meeting up with a lot of friends around the region, so I don't have to make separate trips in the near future. So bundle trips is another happy climate action. Okay, great. I'm just reading the comments here. Great, thank you, Avril, for mentioning the book. I haven't read it yet, but I will put that on my list to read. Lori, you're also a thrifter. Great. Awesome, thank you. You feng shuied your fridge and it worked. I'm so happy to hear that, Lori. I'm actually getting a lot of photos of my friends who feng shuied their fridge, and they sent me a photo and they said this is working really well for them. Okay, thanks, Greg, for sharing your work. Yeah, that's right. So thank you for mentioning that point about ocean rise. And everyone giving up on flying very hard because the families are living away. That's true. My parents are in Hong Kong, so seeing them is very carbon intensive. So yeah, it's hard when we have families who are very far from us. But when I do fly to see my parents or my family members, I don't do it often. I haven't done it for 4 years during the pandemic. I just saw them earlier this July, but I bundled my trips along the way. So I make sure that I'm not going to fly back in the near future, and I sometimes combine work with pleasure with vacation, so I can get work done as well as taking some time off and enjoy that trip. Great. So I think we are ready to jump into the workshop. I'm gonna send a link.
The link is already there in the chat.
Oh,
it's right above the PDF, but we can.
Great, Lori. So Lori, thank you, Lori, for sending that. I'm just placing it here in case you can't scroll it up. So this is simply a Google Doc where I will break you into different breakout rooms. This is the happy climate approach I talked about, which is finding the sweet spot between emission reduction and happiness in promotion. And here, the second slide is the instructions. So basically, I want you to come up with one action that will achieve a carbon reduction goal for yourself in the next year. And you can use that action with if-then statements. So for instance, if I'm at a buffet, then I will fill my first plate with vegetarian options. If it's not raining, then I will bike to work. So that's one concrete way to construct the action that you're trying to engage in. And following that action, you can indicate how likely you will actually follow through on that action. And also ask yourself how happy this action will make you feel. Like, would that make you miserable, or would that make you feel happy? And then after that, you can stress test the plan with people in your breakout room. So you can identify potential obstacles. What problems can come up along the way that will throw me off on this plan, and then generate solutions to overcome these obstacles. Then the last 2 points are my recommendations. So one is try to find an accountability buddy. This can be a family member or your close friend. You can email them your plan. So everyone has access to this worksheet. You can simply email them your plan and say, hey, can you just keep me accountable? Check in with me in a month or so and ask how I'm doing with this. I'm also happy to serve as an accountability buddy for you. So you can email me your plan and I will follow up with you in a month to see how you're doing. Okay, so I think now I'm going to try to put all of you into breakout rooms. So we'll have 22 people. So thank you for the additional comments. The leftovers from Susan. Yes, be creative with the fading vegetables and there's actually I don't know if any of you use ChatGPT, but you can actually tell ChatGPT what's left over in your fridge, and ChatGPT will create a recipe for you. I just saw that a couple of days ago. I thought that was brilliant. This is apparently a whole TikTok challenge now. People call it leftover ChatGPT, where you just tell the ChatGPT what's left over in your fridge, and then they will create a whole recipe and say you can just cook this tonight. I hope you made some progress in the Happy Climate Action Plan. I enjoyed talking to each team, and I'm seeing a lot of exciting ideas. Does anyone want to share your plan? What is the action that you're hoping to take?
I'll share.
Okay.
The folks that I was with, we all talked about eating plant-based diets, and we all talked about sharing recipes, and we all talked about getting together to eat together and make food that we can share, because if people are busy, they're not able to do all of the cooking, but if we get together we can share, and then there's food left over, not so much cooking, and easier to follow our diets.
Are you all taking your pet rabbits?
No.
That rabbit is lovely. I think I'd like to talk to you at some point just about the rabbit as a pet.
My rabbit just escaped from the pen, so I need to hang on. I think she wants to participate. Does someone else wants to have a go on sharing your action?
Well, Denise, why don't you?
You're muted, Denise.
Sorry, there. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Patrick talked about riding his bike more and doing his errands and his shopping using his bike. And so that was a really good one. And then, oh, I'm sorry. Not Annette. What is our other lady's name that was in our group? Angie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Angie talked about really trying to eat less meat. And one of her big obstacles, of course, was her partner enjoys having the meat products. So she's talked about using maybe poultry and pork and trying to find other alternatives and slowly working that way and keeping the conversation up with persuasion. And then one of my, what I was hoping to do going forward is really try to buy products with less packaging, finding ways to cut back on that packaging. And we talked about using the bulk stores and the refilleries. There's one in Penticton, of course, there's one in Summerland. And just trying to make that, be more diligent about doing that and staying away, getting rid of that packaging. I don't know what else to do on that one. So those were our topics.
Yeah, I mean, plastic waste produces a lot of emissions and also contaminates, pollutes water, soil, or even air sometimes. So yeah, I mean, I think I've been carrying a water bottle everywhere I go. Even when I travel, I just use one water bottle all the time. But I think somebody else also mentioned gloves. So a lot of the like hospitals or clinics just freely hand out plastic gloves that are actually not that helpful and very wasteful. So reducing waste, that's a huge one. Yeah. Okay, I think oh yeah, Angela.
I just wanted to ask Denise, because I have a refillery in Summerland.
Yes.
I noticed that I noticed your one of your obstacles was just access, and just you put laziness.
Yes.
But when running other errands. So I had a question just for the group to inquire how, if that's an obstacle for other people, would it be helpful if you were able to call ahead and we had something ready for you, or you dropped off your bottles and then you went to do errands and came back? Like, what do you feel would make a difference to, or is it cost? Like, what would make a difference in doing using a refill service?
Well, I do use your refill service when I can. What cost, of course, comes into play, but I hate shopping. I hate shopping, and so when I go to shop, I try to do it all at once at one place.
Yeah.
And that's the obstacle for me. That's my personal obstacle, is going to different locations is an issue for me because I really dislike shopping. But I think that what you do is your service is phenomenal. And one of the nice things that I like about the Summerland Refillery is bottles are there. Often you can use the bottles that are there. You don't always have to think ahead and bring your own bottles. And I've noticed that that's an option for me when I go to the refillery in Summerland.
I think Doreen has a question.
Go ahead, Doreen, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Right. I have been spending the last few days with ranchers. And I have to say, they are very willing to do what they can to become better at what they do. I live rurally. Some of these things are very difficult for a rural person to do. Like for me, my thing is I'm going to try to drive into Penticton less often, maybe 2 times a week, and get everything done in those 2 days. But getting back to the ranchers is, I don't think that not eating beef is a solution, because these ranchers are saving biodiversity by keeping those large tracts of land.
So that's choosing the right beef, because if I just go to Superstore, I'm not getting that beef. I'm getting
Right.
free, what do they call it? Like
Feedlot.
lot beef.
Feedlot beef, yeah.
Okay.
So it's choosing the right beef. Right?
It's choosing the right beef, or choosing local beef. Like these are all local ranchers here that, I mean, they really do. They love the land. They really want to be responsible. And the one rancher said today he could have sold his land for a housing development, to make lots of money, but he chose not to. And I think we have to honor that in some way. And by sort of all becoming vegetarians, all of a sudden, it forces them to leave the land. So I don't know what to say about that, but it's a thought.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's not to say don't eat meat. That's not
Yes.
that's not the message at all. But eat responsibly grown or sustainably grown meat is important. And maybe that's our last question, so we can wrap up because we're already at time here.
Fran, just come and see this rabbit.
Hey, Anne, do you want to? Would you like to unmute yourself?
Yep.
Okay, did it? I always forget. I was going to say somewhat the same as Doreen, because my daughter and her partner have a regenerative organic certified farm where they do raise poultry, pork, beef. And the thing is, a lot of people always say to them, oh, well, it's too expensive. But that's where I think when you say make meat a treat, the people that do buy from them, they eat a lot less meat. But they appreciate what they're getting, and like Doreen said, my daughter and her partner, they are trying to like their right bioforest, that's an interface, and they're working on that, on those issues. So I could easily be a vegetarian, but but they have meat, and that's how they make their living. So it's kind of it's sort of everything in moderation, and everybody's switching a little bit. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, I think that wraps up the workshop, and I thank you for being here today. I think, as Lori said, there will be informations mailed out to people
Absolutely.
at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send out a link with a recording of this session, and except for the breakout rooms, and then all the links that have been in the chat. And I just had a couple of just really quick announcements. First of all, Jay-Z's workshop, anyone can do it. It's online. And so we'll have that link as well. And one of my actions is to try and communicate better. And I've already talked about doing a workshop at our local library. So we're hoping to schedule that sometime in the spring just for my little group out here. I'll let you know how that goes. Just a couple of things that are coming up. You may have heard of John Vaillant, who wrote the book Fire Weather. And he also made a presentation recently in Ottawa about the climate fire threat facing Canada. Penticton Library is going to host him online on November the 8th at 6:30. And I think Lori is going to she has put the link in the chat for you. That's a very exciting opportunity to hear him speak. Also, we do have a link to his 5-minute presentation that he made in Ottawa. And it's very compelling. It powerfully summarizes the climate threat problem in Canada. So we'll also send you that link, and I'll put it in the chat as well. And we haven't figured out our next deep dive yet. We haven't finalized it. So stay tuned, check our website out, or sign up for our monthly newsletter if you're not already on it. And I think that's it. Lori, unless I've missed anything?
No, I'll just remind everybody that the City Council in Penticton is looking at starting to build better buildings, and they're a bit reticent to move to zero carbon step code. So please keep, if you're on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, keep looking to see what's happening, because we are going to be working quite hard to educate them, to have them move forward, to build better for our future, and to save money. And if you want to write letters to the Herald or to the council, we welcome that. Send them to us as well. I think that's it. And I just really want to say thank you so much to Jay-Z for joining us tonight and leading us on this amazing journey. It was informative and fun, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Thank you all for being here.
And we got the rabbit.
She just really wants to be here.
We wanted her.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye,
Thanks
everybody.
so
See you
much.
next month.
Bye.